Let's go over getting the ganache ready for the palette knife portion of our cake. So this is just the extra ganache that we lightened up and put the white in for our stencil. And we're going to be adding two different colors to this to get our pretty periwinkle blue. We've got our Hawaiian blue and our bright neon pink. Now I'm going to be adding twice as much pink as I add blue. So for example, we've got 4 drops of blue, so I want to add 8 drops of pink. So twice as much pink as blue. That's going to help us get the pretty periwinkle color, but not too much of a purpley color. So again, I'm using airbrush colors here. I find that they flow really, really well with the ganache. Sometimes at this point, the gel colors can beat up. So I am going to recommend if you have airbrush colors, you use those. Now, I feel like this one is tinting a little bit too much purple for me. So I'm going to add in just a little bit more blue. Go slow, add a little bit at a time. You can always add more. It's going to be really hard to take it back out though. So a little bit at a time. This is 2 extra drops. And I really like how it's toned that purple out. You can see a bit more of the blue, and that's going to look really pretty for our kind of periwinkle bridal shower cake that we are going for here. Mix really, really well. When we start doing the palette knife, you do not want any white chunks or the purple color that we had a second ago. We don't want any chunks. So mix really well, and we're going to let this thicken up pretty significantly for us, more the consistency of like a thick buttercream. All right, let's talk about the consistency of our ganache real quick. So you can see this is nice and thick. It's not flowing off my spoon whatsoever. This is going to be a really good consistency for our palette knife technique. We don't want anything soft and flowy. It'll run down our cake. And then remember, we've got our slightly bent palette knife or offset spatula, and this is just going to help us get a better angle on the cake. So I'm going to dip into my bowl here, and I'm going to get a little bit on my spatula, and I'm just going to come here to my cake, and I'm going to push in and pull down. Push and pull. Okay, super simple. Okay, and you can put these anywhere. You can put them over your stencil if you'd like. These can be groups, these can be singles. This is a really forgiving technique. Okay, we're just pushing in, rocking our spatula, and pulling down. So let's see if I can get a really good picture of it right here. So I'm pushing in, I'm rocking my spatula, and I'm pulling down. Okay, we can put some down here. Okay, and this is really similar to our stencil. If something happened and you do not like it, go ahead and take it off. Okay, these can be larger, they can be smaller, they can be in groups. But to get this sort of bumped up portion at the top, we've got to push and then rock the spatula. So push it on, rock the spatula up. Okay, I did that one a little slow. Push it in and rock the spatula up. See, just like that. Okay, and we're going to go around. You can put as much or as little of this as you'd like. We can put it here on the connecting tiers, on the lip of our 8-inch. Definitely want to put some here on top. Okay, and remember, we're pushing down and we're rocking. Okay, we can go different directions here. Push down and rock. We can even connect those guys right there if we'd like. So see, it's really It's not a difficult technique. It's very forgiving. Okay, we can score it back off again if you end up where you've messed it up or you don't like where something landed. Just remember, we can kind of do like we did for the stencil, and you can pull it right back off again. Okay, so we're just going around. Remember, we're pushing down and rocking forward and pulling. Push down, rock forward and pull. Okay, and try to get some good coverage all around your cake. Be constantly moving your turntable so that you can see all the different sides and angles. We don't want to group it all in one spot. We really want this color to flow all over our cake. Okay, we can go over the stencil like we talked about. Don't feel like you can't do that. Okay, now this is my favorite sort of technique. I am not someone that is minimalist by any stretch of the imagination. In my opinion, more is always better. So I like this technique a lot. Now the other thing we can do is, if you've got any places you feel are too heavy, you can kind of come in and lighten them up a little bit. I think most of these look great. I like the large kind of chunk that I'm getting on some of these. So let's just let's make sure we feel like everything is even. I think I'd like a couple more spots. And you can see, even with this one offset spatula, I can get smaller areas and I can get larger areas. So don't feel like everything has to be the same size. And then this technique is really about being, a little bit random. Although I will say I think I like groups of 2 and 3 better than just singles. Pay close attention to the front of your cake. So this is going to be the front of our cake. So I want to make sure I've got good coverage up here. I don't want any super bare spots or anything like that here on the front. And I think we're pretty good. Okay, so when you feel like you're at a good point and you're ready to stop, just step back, make sure everything feels covered, make sure it feels like you've got a good amount everywhere you look. I'm going to step back with you guys and look at this through the camera lens. I think that looks really nice. So the next thing we want to do is our sprinkles. Let's start here with our gold sprinkles. Now these gold ones, and remember these were just our Wilton gold, these gold ones I am going to place by hand because they're larger and I definitely want them to feel a bit more scattered. I don't want clumps of them. So these I'm just going to go around, maybe in the center of some of the flowers. I think the gold looks particularly pretty up against the blue. But remember, it doesn't have to be everywhere. Okay, I do again like things in groups of 2. I think the 2s look nice. Okay, but we're just randomly putting on the gold, and again, we're going to use the gold a little bit sparingly. We're not going to do a heavy amount of the gold sprinkles. We're not going to do a heavy amount of the white ones either, but go nice and sparingly with the gold. Gosh, I do just love it up against the blue though. Isn't it beautiful? These Wilton Gold are definitely, whoops, we got that guy that did not want to stick. The Wilton Gold is definitely a bit more of a bronzy gold. So kind of keep that in mind too. It's not a drastic gold. It's a little bit bronzy in color. Whoop. And you're going to drop them, but that's okay. So, okay, we can just remember we're going to add less of the gold. And we're going to scatter the white around a little bit more. Okay, pay attention again. Here's our front. Okay, so we want to make sure the front looks very nice. Okay. Okay, we'll put a couple here on top. All right, let's step back. I'm going to spin that with you, see how that looks. Okay, I like that. I think that's plenty of gold. Now for our white sprinkles, if you're using a buttercream cake and it has crusted over, or if you're using a fondant cake and it has dried, we are going to need to get that surface a little bit wet again so that our sprinkles can stick. And my trick there is just get a clean spray bottle with some warm water, and I'm just going to slightly spray, and then I'm going to toss some of my sprinkles at the cake. Okay, and when I say toss, I really mean toss. I'm sure there's an easier way to get, okay, so you see just a little bit, I'm just getting it damp. I'm sure there's an easier way to get all these little sprinkles to stick to the cake, but tossing them just seems to be the easiest method. They just seem to stick better. They seem to stick more random for me when I toss them. Okay, so again, I'm just a tiny bit of water, and then I'm just tossing these, and I'll place on some of the larger white ones. All right, and I'm going to go all the way around my cake. Isn't that pretty? It just adds a little bit of texture, which is so nice. Okay, remember, we're not looking for anything to be overly damp here. Water's not always great, but we just want enough so we can create that stickiness again. Okay, you can give it a second to kind of tack up for you. And then we're just gonna toss these. Stick there, little guy. There we go. Okay, I'm just gonna toss these right at the cake. And wherever they stick, that's where they can go. Okay, if you want larger concentrations, you can kind of get them on your finger. Okay, but we're using these to add some really nice texture to our cake here. Okay, so you see just a little bit. It's just a little bit texture. It's just a little bit more. Remember how I talked about how I like more. Okay, you can dab some inside of our little periwinkle couple spots here. That's really pretty. Okay, I like that. Let's move on to the bottom. Okay, we're just going to repeat the same process. Okay, we're just throwing these little ones. If I've got areas where I want them to concentrate more. Okay, remember we don't want too much water. Be careful and sparing with your water. Okay. Put a little bit inside our blues. Oh, I just think that's so pretty. Okay, now that we've gotten our cake nice and tacky, you can put some of these on with your hands. If you're not super keen at my throwing technique. Okay, now if you were doing this in stages and your buttercream cake was tacky or your fondant cake had come in and out of the refrigerator, you definitely would not need the water. So if your cake is plenty tacky, please don't feel like the water is a necessity, because it's not. It's just a little technique I'll use if my cake has tacked up on me, or if my cake has gotten dry and I need things to stick. All right, so again, we don't have a whole lot of rhyme or reason here. This is just an extra layer of some pretty dimension and texture that we're going to have going. Okay, so you keep going until you feel like you're at a good spot and you're happy. Okay, let's do a little bit here up on the top. All right, and I think we're looking really good. Let's give it a good spin. We can see that we're pretty even all the way around. We've got a good bit of sprinkles. So let's stop here. It's always better to stop before you need to. And next we're going to work on our sugar flowers.